The person speaking is Keira Mclean, and Keira is a community activist and she runs a political participation workshop, and she's a member of the Radical Independence Campaign, and we are Women for Independence as well. We've got some leaflets up the back for that, and she's a member of the National Collective, which is a collection of artists and people who are pretty progressive and pushing that agenda for Scotland. So, Keira.
I was going to say, in this country, because what we had to put up with in the past 40 years, the certain things that are normal in other countries that we don't think are normal, like a living wage, that's not normal here, that's radical. Affordable childcare, that's not normal, ridiculous. High levels of youth employment, that can't be normal either, that's radical. What are you thinking? Workers' rights, those kind of things. And I think my journey to TS wasn't particularly different one. I grew up in a Marxist household, so that has its own trials and tribulations, but it was a fairly left, oppositional house anyway to the establishment of the day of Thatcher. I was born in 79, so I grew up in Thatcher's Britain, and that definitely shaped me and my values and what I see. When I hear a lot of the Better Together stuff from that recent campaign, the celebrity campaign, Let's Stay Together, and you look at the kind of people who are asking us that, there's one guy, Dan Snow, who owns half of Scotland. Well, his family does, and you think about what are these people's agendas? What are their interests behind it? And I know that my agenda, as a single woman, as somebody with big cash and no land, is that I want a more socially just society. I'm pushing the fight for a yes vote, not because I want people to necessarily think like me, because I want us to talk about it, I want us to have a voice. And for me, the issue is Westminster. Westminster is the problem. The institution of governance in this country is the problem. It's them and it's us. And it's not us, we didn't start that, they decided it. There's corruption at the heart of Westminster, I think we can all see that. And it's not just financial corruption, it's moral corruption. And I don't know if there's been enough talk about, because there's always a danger that we don't want to politicise a very sensitive issue, that this culture of paedophilia, of child rape, that's happening in Westminster, that's there, is we need to talk about that. And we also need to remember that these are people that determine child protection laws, that can amend those laws, that pass those laws. Those people to me do not have our children's interests at heart. And we need to think about that. We are nothing to them. We are fodder for war. We are cattle that they can extract cash from. And don't forget, we line their pockets. We line their pockets. Whose children are living in poverty? Ours. Whose children can't afford to go to college or university? Ours. Whose children can't get jobs? Ours. Whose children have they been abusing? Ours. Whose communities suffer closures and lack of public services? Ours. Ours, ours, ours. We have the chance to send a message to Westminster to weaken that corrupt, morally and financially corrupt structure of governance. We have that chance. Sorry, I can't get into that. I recently went to a Better Together meeting, which was really weird. It was Anna Salmar, and there were maybe 4 real people in the audience. The rest were all kind of entourage, 3 of which were yes activists that I knew. That was quite interesting. There was food and drink at it, lovely spread, really nice. And I asked them, what's your positive case for the union? How are we going to tackle poverty? How are we going to tackle this institutional corruption? How are we going to do this? And they just kind of said, you just got to trust in the Labour. We'll see you right. We'll look after you. I don't believe you. I don't believe that Labour are going to look out for us. Don't forget, Labour started this process of welfare reform that we're on just now. The bedroom tax is a Labour policy. It was a Labour policy. They have wholeheartedly embraced the privatisation of the NHS. And in fact, in my opinion, privatisation is the biggest con going. Okay? We're told that, those at the top were told this, because obviously we can't think for ourselves, that private companies are more efficient, they generate more profit, they provide better services. Now that's bollocks. Okay, privatisation means two things. It means job loss and it means profits lining the pockets of shareholders. That's all it means. And I want us to be able to stop these things, to stop privatisation, to stop these welfare reforms. But we can't do that if we don't have a voice. And we don't have a democratic voice. Our vote doesn't count. So let's shake them up. Let's remove power from their hands and put it into our hands. Choose change, choose to have a voice, and vote yes. Thank you.
Excellent. That was really excellent. A couple of points I picked up on there, Keira. That's what they tell us about privatisation. It's weird how the only company in England, the real company in England that doesn't need subsidised by the government is actually owned by the British government. So all these privatised companies actually get subsidised. As well as the British attitude surveys are always telling us about privatisation and we want to bring things back into public ownership. It's not exactly radical because if 60 or 70% of the people in Britain are actually saying that we should have the telecoms and the essential industries back under public ownership. These aren't exactly, they're no radical proposals. It's just because all the British political parties are in the pockets of the rich that they won't dare. So they're actually going against the will of the people that represent them. Okay, the next speaker tonight is a local guy, Darren McGarvey, also known as Loki. He's a social activist, writer, and has campaigned on behalf of young people in disadvantaged communities for 15 years. He's passionately challenging the stereotypes of young people through his journalism and his music, so I'll give you Darren.
It's good to see so many people here. I've been working in the community centre for about 7 weeks now, just trying to engage with some of the young people here who, like a lot of the communities I work in, can be quite challenging. So the first day I was here, no young people came, but they were sitting in the park outside, so I thought, well, if they're sitting in the park, that's something. So what I did was I just stood at the door and started talking to them. And then once I started talking to them, then I realised that they were up for talking if you talk in a language that they think is real and authentic. Because they don't trust people, because people, I heard somebody else referring to people, the seagulls come in and shit at a high height and then leave. So people grow up communities where they're cynical about people coming in, you know what I mean? So I try to kind of live by that principle whenever I go somewhere, even though I'm fake Pollock, so I know the gist. I don't like to make too many assumptions about places when I go in. Can I just pick up quickly on a couple of points that were made? The idea of the way that we talk, our culture, the way we speak, and how that's not good enough or is no legitimate, I can vouch for that. You know, I can vouch for that. Even within the Yes campaign, my message is a wee bit rough around the edges because people don't understand I'm aggressive sometimes because I grew up in an aggressive place under the constant threat of violence, and that anxiety became part of who I was to the point where I forgot. This is because I'm living in these social conditions that I'm angry. I just thought I was an angry person. But you can find out a clue to what Gary said, and whose values do you need to adopt in order to ascend? Whose values do you need to adopt to lend legitimacy? You need to adopt the values of the dominant social class. And that is how people can go from hero to zero to hero, because they're very keen to get on that wee ladder, and some of us won't budge, and I'm one of them. The other point about privatisation, I think we have to acknowledge, if we're going to be arguing for publicly owned services, we have to acknowledge there are problems inherent with it. But the problem is that a publicly owned service cannot be run using corporate managerial language. So all the slack and all this sort of half-arsedness that people complain about the council and all that, that's because they've not been instilled with the kind of pride that they should feel for delivering a service on behalf of the public. So we could remove a lot of the kind of corporatised language and all this managerial crap and really engender a culture where people want to get into that because they want to deliver something to the community and they want to give something back. I just want to pick up basically, quickly about me regarding my background, because who am I? You might just think, who is this guy, you know what I mean? So I grew up in Pollock, right, like I say, in that sort of community. Addiction was quite rife in my family. I've lost a lot of family since to it. I managed to get sober about 18 months ago, and what I realise now, looking back in hindsight, is that I drank in the engine room, and my addiction was all this anxiety and fear, this fear that I was telling you about, and that became a dependency. It was the psychology of dependency. Basically, how an addiction works or a dependency works is it tries to hide in the places where you're not looking, and it presents itself as the solution to all your problems. Anytime you try to attack it, anytime you try to shine a light on it, it hides in the corner, it hits you with excuses. And I found that when I've been observing this debate, then what I think that we're dealing with underneath the material issues, which are very important, I think what we're dealing with is a history of a country where the people have been slowly eroded, you know, eroded for the inside. This idea that staying part of what is the source of a problem, I can only describe that as addictive behaviour. That's the alky you know in your family or down the road for you who tells you, I only drink once a week. You know what I mean? Who you know is no well. That's what I see when I hear those arguments, and Gary alluded to it when people say, well, we're just better together. That's sound bites, that's newspeak. Billions of pounds of money in research get poured into figuring out how to say things to human beings so that they'll just believe it anyway. And know what they do? They prey on your human frailty. That's what they do. They make you think they're too fat, they make you think they're too stupid, they make you think they're too poor. All the things you see on telly are either extreme depictions of you or aspirational depictions in which you aspire to by buying crap. Now that is what I think this society is about. Now that's materialism. The problem we've got with this debate now is the politicians cannot make an argument against materialism because they're scared about it being refuted as being idealistic. It's just empty words, they say. Okay, so let's have a look at the material things that we treasure. Welfare, the health service, your employment rights, which are being eroded aggressively. All these things that we have versus the things we want, and all the things we're afraid to lose, all tied up in that ball of anxiety about the future. So, if people want to look at this through a materialist lens, can I ask them to look at British history through the same lens? Know what Jeremy Paxman says British history is about. Look at it, the materialist conception of history. Know the values espoused by the leaders, but what they were actually in it for. When you look at British history, what you see is the most aggressive force ever on the face of the earth. A country that does not know how to behave any other way than aggressively, duplicitously. And that is because of privilege. It's because the people who are in charge are so privileged, I pity them. I don't believe these people are evil, and I think it's naive to characterise them as such. I think they grew up in a bubble where they are incapable of the kind of empathy required in order to create a fairer society. Now, this is a point that might be a bit contentious, alright? But I'm not making an argument here for the union. People might say, well, those things happened in the union. The Enlightenment happened in the union. Right, okay, cool, it did. But those things now we can see materially are all being eroded in the union. The union is trying to dismantle those things. It's about looking at you like a disposable container who is on this earth to go to work until you die. That is it. That is all you need to know. Now we look at other countries like Russia and China and North Korea and we think, how can these people live like that? How can these people live like that? Look at them worshipping pictures of supreme leaders. But see, in this materialist culture, they've got us worshipping pictures of ourselves. That is what this society is about. That is what's at the root of this, and that is why Alistair Now I'm just going to finish by saying, the people, this is privilege again, right? The people who are telling you, this is uncertainty, you can't do this. The people who are saying, oh, you better be worried because you don't know about that unknown, too many unknowns. Those people who are telling you that you can't do it, those people were brought up to believe they can do anything they want. Anything they want. And that is why when you look at your TV screens or your newspapers, you see a whole gaggle of really unexceptional white men. Why? Because they thought they couldn't do it, doesn't even enter their mind. And that is why they're successful. That is why we have TV shows where we worship corporate people who we walk into the room like, please, it's a yes or no, can you make my life happen, Mr. Corporation? Sorry mate, fuck off. Flush them down the toilet and then they just fade away into obscurity. That's because you're disposable, I'm disposable. That's how we're seen. And we're embracing that almost. Have you seen a TV show where it's the call centre? Now anybody that's worked in a call centre will know it's not really great for your sense of empowerment in life. It's not really great for your sense of self-esteem. But these are the jobs that are available to people like us. There's nothing on that TV show that's alluding to any of that truth about the call centre. It's all just about glamorising it so you can go to your job in the call centre and think you've got a chance to go on the telly one day. Now see, when you start to look at UK culture in that way, the material concerns that you have begin to pale into insignificance. Those things that we are afraid to lose would not have existed if not for people who were idealistic, who spoke out and inspired others to fight for those things. All throughout crucial junctures in history, and folks, we need to recognise this is one of those moments. This is what they don't want you to know. This is one of these moments. Now, I don't know what way everybody's swinging in here, right? Some people might be yes, some people might be maybe, some people might be no. But I urge you to listen to the voice right deep in your head. The one you have to overrule because you want to fit in. The voice that says, this life is really unfair and I'm getting shat on everywhere I turn. I'm stressed out of my box and I forgo why. I don't trust people. I'm agitated. They're relying on your low self-esteem and your desire to acquire things on a material level. They're relying on you to just stay thinking like that and no be idealistic and no aspire to more. I believe we can do it. And I'll finish on this. See, when I get sober, I'd been trying for years to the point where I see the people that loved me, even the people close to me, they didn't think I could do it. I nearly died. My ego nearly killed me. No, it was running on that, driving on that, because all I could think about was what can I get out of life? What can I get me? And that, my friends, is what Britain is about. That is our gift to the world. Thank you.
I think we've amply seen demonstrated there are three really powerful speakers. I often get criticised myself because I criticise the SNP and have people say to me, oh, you can't do that, we're all part of the same side, and I say, well, hold on, no, I'm going to advocate the kind of independent Scotland that I want us to be. And see the three kind of speakers we've had here, that's why I'm part of the Radical Independence campaign, because we are giving people a chance to speak out. It's different from kind of all of the Civic Scotland kind of stuff where don't scare the horses and let's not say it to upset anybody. Well, I think we do need to upset people. I think we really need to radically change the way things are. And I've just one wee point we've mentioned about idealism. I organise, I chair stuff, I don't really do much speaking, I do a lot of the organisation stuff and the strategy stuff behind the scenes. And I went to this church, his pastor and his wife, and I was trying to organise an event for us a few months ago. And they labelled me an idealist because I was going on about food banks. They're actually part of food bank drive and help the poor. And as the conversation went on, I realised they absolutely despised people that they were helping in these food banks. They absolutely despised them. And because I said, well, we've got a chance to create a circumstance in a country where we won't have food banks, they called me an idealist. And that's the kind of thinking that we are up against. If you try and change what is our normal just now, you're an idealist. We're one of the richest countries in the world, and yet you'd be called an idealist for saying we shouldn't have food banks. Madness, just madness. Well, final these guys have run right through. I mean, they've been a lot quicker. So you've got plenty of time, Victoria, but we're also going to have plenty of time for the speakers to say something else, to expand on a lot of your questions. Our final speaker tonight is somebody who's a comrade in the Radical Independence campaign from the South Side. She's part of the Women for Independence, and you are also a social work student, Victoria. So the floor's yours. Victoria Heaney.
I've just came here tonight to tell everybody my journey of coming over to the other side. I was a no voter last year, and all my friends were saying, I can't believe I'm not voting yes. And I thought, well, why would I? When I look at the people that are in power in Westminster and I'm voted, I don't identify with any of them, even people in voted. They don't look like me, they don't talk like me. They've never paid a bill in their life, and I don't really trust them as far as I can throw them. So I was thinking, well, if we do get independence, it's going to be the same thing, but just rebranded and repackaged in a different way. Same shit, different day. So I thought, I'm just going to sit on the fence and not bother about voting at all. But then that will change for me. I went to a conference by the Radical Independence campaign, and it was on a Saturday morning in the Marriott Hotel. And what struck me was that over 1,000 people get out of their bed on a Saturday, unpaid. They came from England, Scotland, all up in the Isles, Ireland, Wales. It was 1,000 people that got together, and they came to share their ideas of something different. They had new ideas about how to have a fairer society, a more equal society, how to have, they'd done all these comparative studies with countries that were the same size as Scotland, smaller than Scotland, with less resources as Scotland, and they actually came to the conclusion that we can actually become independent, and we can not only sustain ourselves, but we can thrive on our own assets. So I took that as a wee bit of inspiration, and it struck a chord with me, because when I look about society, I feel like we're going back to Dickens in times. People are going to food banks, we're getting work trials where people are working just to get their benefit money, and we keep being told that we cost too much. So I thought that's a wee bit of inspiration for me, and I slowly came over to the yes side. As a social work student, I'm aware that there's a growing trend in the working poor. I witness people choosing between heating and eating. People's bills keep spiralling, their gas is going up, their electricity is going up, everything's going up, but the only other thing that seems to be going up in this country is the bonuses for bankers. The rich are getting richer, and the poor are still getting poorer. The continuing rise of the working poor, where families are living month to month on low-paid jobs with 0-hour contracts, it's driving them deeper into poverty. And it's all too apparent that these people are going to end up in the depths of poverty if we don't do something fast. But that's not the story we all hear in the papers, is it? Every day you can be a striver, a skiver, and a heartbeat. You know, one day you've got a job, the next day you're redundant, the next day you're at a food bank. The cycle and the trend just keeps going on. And we keep hearing that we don't work hard enough, we don't work long enough, that we're all shirkers, and anybody that isn't working, if you just get on your bike and go and find a job, there's one out there for everybody. These pearls of wisdoms come straight from the City of London. They come from an institution called Westminster. And when I use the word wisdom, I use it very, very loosely. These are the people that say us, our children, our sick, and our disabled, our lone parents, our pensioners, and our schools will have to live within a lifetime of austerity. While they're telling us all that, they're sitting drinking bottles of champagne funded by the taxpayer. Since the coalition government came into power, the consumption of champagne has went up 1,000 bottles every year for the past year. So when I think about that, I just imagine them all night sitting down their sums, getting their sums rang, sending the word up here, and it sounds to me like for the last few years they've been having an amazing house party while telling us that we all need to start working harder for it, and to me that's just not on. I used to try and find the irony in it, but nobody's laughing, and I don't think anybody in this room is laughing either. It's clear to me that we're all still paying for the banking crisis of 2008. All of us, apart from the MPs in Westminster, we keep hearing about the welfare bill. Oh God, the welfare bill's too much, it has to get shaved, it has to get shaved. People are demonised for accessing something that is a basic human right. It's startling to think that there's more people up here that have to claim benefits that are in work than people that aren't working. The fact of the matter is, if we all get paid a decent wage, a living wage, if we weren't on 0-hour contracts, if we had employment rights, we wouldn't have to top up our income with benefits at all. We wouldn't need any of that. But when I think about it a wee bit more, I think Westminster likes it that way. Because if we're getting something off them, we have to give them something for back, because I think we're all getting something for nothing up here. So I think they like to keep us down, and they like to keep us under their control, straight where they can keep us. They like to tell us that we're biting the hand that feeds them, when really the one that's feeding them, and we've been feeding them for far too long. We live in fear of sanctions, work trials, and then I think about what about all the unclaimed benefits, where does that go? Done a wee bit of research, and in 2010 there was £12 billion sitting there in unclaimed benefits. £12 billion, not 2 billion, £12 billion. Where is the adverts on the TV screens saying to us, have you got everything you're entitled to? Where is people saying that your income being maximised? Well, not, they're hiding it from us, and they're telling us that we're still costing too much. A couple of years ago I was on the phone to my dad, and he phoned me up and he was like, oh, you're never going to believe it, Hen. He was like, I've been packed half the brew, knocked off the pan, I'll need to go down, there must be a mistake. My dad had been in the sick for years and was unfit to work, and he didn't realise that there was a welfare reform starting off, and he was going to have to go back down and be reassessed. He had loads of funny stories about how he put in for an appeal, and he was told that he would have to wait a whole year for an appeal. So in that time he had to look for a job. So he was going down to the job seekers pool, signing on every week to prove that he was looking for work. And I used to check in with him and see how it was going and stuff, and he'd tell me all these funny stories. He'd be like, oh, it's a circus down there, they don't know what they're doing. And then he would tell me stories about, them being sanctioned because they said that he didn't sign on in enough time, but really they just didn't hear him. He didn't hear his name being shouted. But when he got to the desk, he said, sorry, you're late for your appointment, you're getting sanctioned. He had funny stories as well about when he presented for the first time. He hadn't worked for a long time, and the wee lassie in the desk asked him what his previous occupation was, and my dad said, I'm an architect at Hen. And the wee lassie was just like blank. She didn't know what an architect was. They didn't have the skills to compete in today's current job market, and the welfare state was not equipped to set him up and support him. But all those stories stopped, and I stopped asking. My dad didn't really shed any light, he just told me that it was okay, and I trusted what he said. He would have been 56 in April there, but in 2012 his heart packed in really suddenly. He was only 54, and I don't know what brought on his heart attack. I didn't really think too much about it. I just thought, get on with things, get on with life. So when I was unpacking everything in his flat, it was like the Dead Sea Scrolls, just a plethora of letters for the DWP, knocking him off the sick, sanctioning him for his benefits, knocking back appeals from his doctors, knocking back letters from his physicians, want to go back to his medical history to when he was a child, want to go back, 40 odd years. The letters were just, there were so many there I couldn't keep track of them. But the last one I got to made my heart sink, and it said, Mr. Heaney, your appeal date is set for the 20th of October 2012. My dad died just a couple of days before that. Just a couple of days, and I didn't have a clue what was going on. I should have been able to have supported my dad. I should have been down there finding out what's going on. I should have put in complaints for the way he was getting treated. But he felt that wasn't his job to bother his wee lassie, and he was my dad, and it was up to him to sort out his own troubles. So what bothers me is that the government that's in charge, that we choose to be in charge at this moment, they employed ATOS to come on to shape the welfare bill. And you would think that if they're going to employ someone to try and minimise things, it would be professionals. It would be professionals that can deal with the sick and the vulnerable. But no, ATOS is an IT system, an IT company, and they're designed to just go in, quite ruthlessly, knock people back. And people that don't have the skills or the capacity or the confidence to turn around and question it, they just get lost. So when I was at the Radical Independence conference, I went to one of the workshops, and it was a disability rights campaigner, and she told us stories that I wasn't alone. There's been over 1,300 people that have died whilst waiting for their ATOS assessment to go through. 2,200 have died before their assessment's even been complete. I do not want to be part of a union where we do this till we're sick and we're sick and we're poor and we're infirm and we're disabled too. After I've been holding my hands and I continue, I'm complicit in these people that are dying prematurely. So that's a reason that I came over to the other side. But what I'm trying to say to everybody in this room is that we need something new. We need something completely new and completely different. What is it and how do we get it? I think right now in our hands we all sit with a lottery ticket, and it's a winning lottery ticket, and we just need to go down to that shop and cash it in. We can't sit and put it in the drawer because it will expire and we won't be able to claim it. We definitely won't. What I'm saying is as well, we'll see when it comes to the day we all vote, we're not going to wake up and the streets are going to be paved with gold. It's not going to be a utopian society, but it's a start. It's a start to rip it up and start again and have something new. It's a start to have people in power that represent us. It's a start to have women in power too. When you look at Westminster, there's less than 22% of women that are MPs. How are women represented in society if only 22% of them are MPs? Maybe it's no wonder that our childcare costs 3 times as much as our mortgage costs. Our childcare costs 3 times as much as our rent costs. We work to pay for our childcare so we don't see our kids. We're demonised for working and we're demonised for not working. It's a no-win situation. We get the chance to reshape politics big time here. Really exciting. We get the chance to get rid of that old boys club and have a democracy where everyone is treated equally and fairly, and where there's accountability for the finances of our country too, where we put the bankers in jail for carrying out all the shenanigans that's been going on for years and years. In the past 300 years, nothing has changed in this union. We've got the lowest life expectancy rate. It's 66 for Glasgow. You come to the East End and it dramatically drops lower. I'm tired of living in a postcode lottery. We've got the poorest health outcomes in Europe, the poorest educational outcomes as well. In my social work course just now, we're learning about this thing called meritocracy, right? And all the political parties will tell us, right, we've got the same chance as anybody in here. You know, we can run for president, we can do anything we want. Hee-haw, right? See if your parents are subscribing to benefits, right, and you're getting free school meals, the chances you get 5 hires to get into university goes to about 3%. We don't have equal chances of everyone else. What they're selling us is a pipe dream, and I don't believe that independence is a pipe dream. I think that's a lie. Scotland is the biggest, it's a hotspot of Europe for payday loan companies. Glasgow's got 40. Out of the whole, I think there's 50 million people in England. We've got 40 quick cash shops in Glasgow. It's obscene. We've got legalised loan sharks and they're here and they're preying on communities where you're paying 4,000% interest on a loan. I'm tired of living in a union where the promotion of food banks is seen as a positive thing. If people weren't up to their eyeballs in debt through using companies like Loki, they wouldn't have to go to these food banks. The last thing that gets me really riled up, we live in a country where we produce more oil in Dubai and Abu Dhabi. Look at the streets of Cranhill, look at Easterhouse, look at the Bournemouth, Castle and Pollock. Do they look like Dubai or Abu Dhabi? Do they help that we produce more oil? It doesn't make sense. And I think now everybody's starting to wake up, they're starting to question things and they're starting to reject what they're being told by the fat cats down in the City of London. I wasn't politically involved until February. I chatted my first door up in Easterhouse, and now I've got right involved with the Radical Independence campaign. We will go to places where no one else will go. The people in Glasgow City Council in the chambers, they're all running fear, they're clinging onto their seats and their gold-plated pensions by the skin of their teeth, and they're in for a big almighty shock. Coming here the day, right, there's what, 20, 30 people in here? If we leave here and you talk to your neighbours and your friends and your family, and we slowly turn every person that we've talked to, we're going to win this campaign. I'm really angry about Britain at the moment. I think it's broken. I think it's broken beyond repair. But instead of being angry and sitting moaning about it, I'm going to turn it into something positive and I'm going to vote yes on September the 18th, and I urge you to do the same.
It's kind of struck me that, you know, this is a written meeting. We've all spoke about what's the point of independence if everything stays the same with just a change of flag? But I mean, I've had this list up because that's a list that I show people a lot. See when people say, what if it doesn't work out? Well, that's a list of countries that I've ever asked to come back under rule from London or from the British Empire. None. Nobody's ever asked to come back because it's just a ridiculous notion. But a lot of people here have spoke about the mindset that would even have us contemplating that. Listen, Scotland is stinking rich. We are one of the richest nations in the whole world. They don't tell you that. When they do kind of admit it now and again, they always say, but what about the pensions? That's a ridiculous thing to say, and it's just to play on the kind of mindset that we'll be speaking about. If we are much richer than the rest of the UK, then it goes to, that we should be able to afford pensions, but they always keep on doing that and doing that. Victoria spoke about the benefits. I quite like to use a wee analogy that they're always on about people written off the system. If you can imagine the people that are written off the system or claim to be written off the system is a margin, and benefits that are unclaimed are the size of a football, a big football. See the taxes that big business don't pay? That's the centre circle in a football ground. It's massive. If we could get, that's what we hope today with independence, get a society that we have everybody, small businesses are getting hammered, medium businesses are getting hammered, big businesses, the bankroll, the Tory and Labour parties really don't pay anything. One guy, a chief executive officer, broke ranks a few years ago and he says, my janitor pays more tax than me. What kind of country, what kind of system have we got that is? And it was true, it was true. The last point I'd like to make, Gary's been ferociously writing notes, so we're going to give him another chance, maybe ask a question and allow Gary. It's Gary's first time, you can see he's not going to be his last. What we've really got is we've got a nation of poverty, wages and food banks, and it's protected by £1 billion weaponry, right? And £1 billion nuclear weapons. It's a state of affairs that can't go on, and we can't allow it to go on any further. Right, Gary? Right, are you want to say something just now, or you want to answer a wee question first?
No, just
right. There is quite a few things we've not covered because it is mostly social justice, and I know a lot of people get that's how I try to address it a wee bit there. So I know a lot of people have got questions about how it's going to affect their lives and how it's going to affect the financial well-being of the country. So don't be I know it's a lot of stuff we've covered, social justice, but don't be shy and give us as many questions as you like. Who's going to be first?
It's no answer to a question. I'd just like to make a comment, if you don't mind. Alistair Darling got free education that you and me paid for, and in the first 21 years that he served in Parliament, on his basic MP salary alone, £1.101 million. And I don't know his allowances, and I don't know his constituency office costs, and I don't know his book deals and his £12,000 a speech and all that. And bear that in mind when you listen to the next debates or anything else that's getting said about this independence referendum, that the people who have got the most to lose are the people who have got the most, and us here who are living in the shite that have paid for the whole thing have got nothing to lose by embracing independence. Forget party politics, forget anything else. Take the power away from Westminster, don't have London Light, a completely new way of running things, and a social justice. That's what we're working on.
Sometimes I feel as if we're in danger of getting a wee bit kind of separated, like the working class against the middle class, for example. And I think it's maybe worth sometimes just being a wee bit clearer about what we mean by working class. In my head, I know that folk have done a great job for the last 30 years of trying to wipe out the working class, so you're either of the underclass or your middle class, and what happened to all the respectable working class folk, and that really is because of all called yourself middle class, if we've been lucky enough to keep in a job and stay in a job. But my point is that you're working class when and if you lose your job at the end of the year, after all your relatives have helped you for another year, you lose your house, your working class, and that goes for everybody that I know who don't tend to think themselves as working class anymore because they've been so successful with kind of, I don't know, airbrushing the working class that are people's faces. We're all working class unless you get inherited wealth at your bank who'll step in and pay your mortgage after you if you lose your job. of step down and educate your ways for you and feed your kids your working class. And I mean, I know these are just words, but I actually think it's quite important sometimes because it can feel sometimes as if it's, I sometimes see middle class people panicking, and it's just what you say, you're terrified about running this wee bit that they've got, as opposed to realising that they've got next to nothing. They've not got any security, maybe another year to be somebody that's actually had a job all their life, but it isn't only that, just we're all just a couple of years away from the streets.
Oh yeah, you're absolutely right. I spent 3.5 years working in the hostel for homeless guys, and there wasn't much that cut across class barriers, because you're right, it didn't take that many hits for somebody to end up on the street, and it's a big mistake to be judgmental when that happens to somebody. I can tell you stories of guys who that happened to, and it wasn't that they were just
Do you see Loki up the back? Speak up.
oh, sorry, Paul. The point I would make was, it's leading on for years, mate. We get told this ridiculous message, you know, again and again, the camera and he's out, that we're on it together. It's a lie, of course it's a lie, you know. The lives that these people live are light years away from how people live here. I mean, even the list of these 200 geezers who've said, oh, don't go, it's like, you know, even a lot of elected representatives, I'd like to ask them if they've ever been in a bus. Really? You ever jumped in the 41? Seriously? Because it is a bit enlightening just to see how people live, to see how people actually, you see it at the window on the bus itself, but they don't come into contact. They spread this lie about, oh, on the doorsteps and we're all in it together. We're not all in it together. The fact of the matter is, the biggest gulf really is between the ruling class, who are represented well, and the rest of us. Really, we're talking about the super rich, who look after their interests. They make no mistake about it. They make no mistake whatsoever. That's what they're in it for, and that's they get a lot of backup to do that. So, I agree. There's no point in banging on in a way which divides us, when really what we're looking for in an independent Scotland is quite basically to get the governments that we vote for, and then to shape the kind of society which benefits all of us. Not an elite, not a privileged few, but all of us. And that's kind of simple. To my mind, that's a kind of simple thing.
Spot on about when we talk about class, and I think everybody that works is working class, and that's it. So everyone that works is working class, and that's it. I think there's definitely been this push for an ideological shift since Thatcher to about this idea of the individual over solidarity, over society, when she talked about, you know, there's no such thing as society, only individuals within it, and there has been a big push. Pretty much what Darren was talking about, through use of language, culture, and even just how we socialise now through social media and things like that. It's us, you know, we're separate from these kind of things, public meetings, which that's what I've loved about this sort of renaissance that's happening, political renaissance that's happening in Scotland right now in these 2 years, that we're having these face-to-face public meetings. We're chatting about it, we're talking about politics, we're talking about each other, what kind of society we want, we're talking about class, we're talking about culture. That's what's really exciting about this period. And we need to stop looking at ourselves as individuals and start remembering that we are a collective, and that as a collective we have more power and more say, and our voice is louder. And we can hear us from the moon if we shout loud enough. So it's really about that.
What you say is dead important, and I've been trying my best to do that all my life. My life has been fundamentally altered for the better by people who could be termed middle class coming into my life and standing with me as an ally in that struggle. So sometimes we talk about things like imperialism and class like they're just these overarching things, but let's look at how they manifest. and what can we do as of now to deal with that, right? So, for example, if you look at, maybe it's no working class, middle class, what you have is you have this culture here of us talking in this language, and then you have the class that's just a wee bit above that who kind of hold the levers of what message gets out. So what you've got is two echo chambers which reinforce their own legitimacy, and there is no cross-pollination. Sorry if I sound like a West End wank, just because I'm mixing a lot of these circles, you know, and that's how people talk.
Stop doing it.
So, well, no, but the thing is though, I think having a cross-cultural ability is important, and we should all have a cross-cultural ability. It's not about saying, I talk like this and I'm just going to stay talking like this. It's about saying, well, I can also talk like that, so maybe you could learn something from me, you know? So when you look at how that actually manifests, then what you see is, at some point, your concerns, depending on how you choose to say them, will be seen as divisive. That's something I've been dealing with. I've been trying to talk about the experience of living in poverty, which is very, very painful and dark. Now, there's a few different levels to poverty. Then there's the train spotting version of poverty, right? Except there's no a metaphor to take away from it. There's no the escapism of like walking out the pictures after it. Even if you make it out of poverty, it changes who you are. So that's an important message. And one of the ways you can stand as an ally with somebody is by resisting the temptation to try and chaperone them around their own struggles. By resisting the temptation to chaperone and sanitise their language and message. It's not about saying you're allowed to retain your working class values, it's about saying you as an individual, this is how you talk. So merely that consciousness from educated people, that level of consciousness, can be empowering in itself regardless of whether political objectives are met. And that's something that could permeate teaching, education, politics. I've seen it work, and I've seen examples of it not working very well. And I've challenged people publicly, even people within the independence campaign, who I think might have picked up some imperial habits, and that's natural. That's natural because all the movements and everything that we build grows up out of this imperial soup. So if we're not conscious that might happen, we can end up developing structures that are not as inclusive as they could be. So, I mean, that's all I would say to add to that.
I've got a lot of friends that claim to be middle class, and I spoke at Loki I think a few weeks ago, and one of my friends stood up and said, you know, I'm middle class, and I said to her after it, Darren, you work in hospitality, you know, you work with your working class, but we've been built up to think it was a shame of being working class, or you're working class, people associated, you know, back to the miners' strike, we're always striking, we're in a trade union, we're troublemakers, you know, we've always got something to say, we're always a wee bit out of place, we don't really fit in, you know, we don't fit in with everyone else. So I think what's important now with this movement that has been on, as Keira said, we're a collective, right? The working class, you don't just stand on your own, it's everybody in this room, it's everybody all around us, but it's about not judging anyone anymore as well. It's about not looking at your neighbour and going, well, she came for that and she's for that, and this is what he's got. Because what they've started to do, and what the forces above us have started to do, they've got us measuring everything we've got and comparing to everyone else. And if somebody's got something a wee bit different, we jump on them and we demonise them as well. So I just think we've been built up to shield ourselves, really, in the working class. It's just a label, and I kind of prefer not even talking about the working class, the class system anymore as well, because I think it's something we need to get away with, and I think a lot of people who do think they're middle class as well need to be ashamed of the fact that
I think some people just need a good kick in the arse themselves. That's my say. Anybody got any questions?
Well, just one point I've come across is that Scotland would have survived a financial crisis at all. We would not have needed anyone's help. Since realising it was actually the US going out most of the banks, that happened. But if we had been independent at the time of the banking crisis, would we have come out all right?
Who wants to answer that? Just a wee quick, we get that through in my face quite a lot about the build at the Scottish banks, and I always ask them, whereabouts in Scotland is Halifax?
I think obviously we've got a crystal ball, so we can't say either no, we would have happened or it wouldn't have happened. But what I would like to think that with a new type of banking structure as well, we're going to get away from that male-centred banking structure too, because that is what's actually the bank. That that's what brought about the banking crisis too. It's the fact that it's the old boys club again, sitting making these decisions and not actually inviting anyone else with. I was watching this thing last week and it was a woman banker from Iceland, and what they did was after the Iceland banking crisis, they reformed the banks, but they done it from a female perspective, or a carer's called as well, and they had these fundamental principles, right? And they sound just like common sense as well, like they were risk averse. If the risk was too big, we wouldn't give the banks the money to. And I think when we get independent, we need to reshape our economic structure that way too. So as the economic structure that's in place right now isn't going to be the same in Scotland. We need to get rid of all these neoliberal policies that are just going to create the same problems. And independent Scotland can't be London moving standards. It has to be something completely radical too. But I do think if we were to face any of those troubles again, with the right people in place, and that's not only the SNP, but with a new left in place too, things are going to be more democratic and more fair.
It's worth asking, what people should ask, what do you think has fundamentally changed in the whole financial setup since the financial collapse? Yeah, and you're basically looking at the ongoing development of the same factors which led to that in the first place. And one of the things that led to it was obviously the deregulation of the whole bank system. Thatcher and Darren were quite happy to see the destruction of manufacturing industry in Britain, and basically in order to prop up the City of London. That's where a lot of the problem lies. As for, when you already said yourself, a lot of American money was just put in there, and money for Scotland went south, and money for England went elsewhere. Why? Because they were scared of a contagion. They were scared that if one bank went, then the whole thing would come tumbling down. Now, you would think, after the debate between Darren and Salmon, that everybody in the North suddenly become an economic expert. One day! I thought it was quite funny after I thought about it for a while, because it reminded me a wee bit of kind of my kind of work, where people who wouldn't really know what kind of profits Vodafone make, or what tax they pay, or Amazon make, what tax they pay, but they can tell you how much a movie grossed. And you're like, wait a minute, they get away from this top of the pops mentality, no 12 anymore. You know, is it really? But look at the important stuff. But all of a sudden, these nuggets became as if I've got a good grasp of economics now. I'm not an economist. A lot of the economists, a lot of the so-called experts, nobody's seen this big crash coming. What the hell were they doing, you know? I mean, it's astonishing. But the whole Plan B thing, it's pretty cool to see this unfolding, because they know they've got a safe bet, because the media's not going to hound them and say, what's your Plan B if Scotland becomes independent and they get rid of Trident? If you think it's so essential for the safety of the West, what's your Plan B? And they go, what is it? Because nobody's going to ask them that, because the press is in their back pocket. Nobody's going to say to them, what's your Plan B if Scotland votes no, and then you and your cronies and UKIP end up dragging us out of Europe? What's your Plan B? They would fill their drawers because they haven't got an answer. But nobody's going to ask them that. So they do this thing about Plan B with the currency, as if, yes, we're going on the run. And the simple fact is, nobody can actually stop them using it. And after that, it would be negotiated anyway. You know, who in their right mind, you wouldn't get England, what was left of the UK, attacking themselves in order to spite Scotland. And that brings us back to a really strange thing about this whole issue. I've had the misfortune my misfortune, but I've witnessed people who've had the misfortune to be in abusive relationships. And very often, they were put in a situation where they were told, if you leave, I'll mess up your finances. I'll make sure you're poor, rock bottom poor, I'll screw you forever. If you leave, I'll make sure any of the pals talk to you, you'll be isolated. You'll be on your own and you'll be done in. No, it's quite simple. I hear the same kind of thing when you get hammered bad. If you leave, I'll make sure that we don't cooperate with you. There'll be no monetary union. You'll be excluded from Europe. You're like, wow. These are the same folk that are love bombing us and say, I love you. But if you leave, I'm going to hammer you into the ground. Wow. Would you want to be in the same relationship? Would you want anybody you love to be in a relationship which threatened you then told you they loved you? It's a nonsense. And the whole financial thing, when they want you to, clowns like Jim Murphy and all these other career politicians dancing about with their big, address the serious questions. Really, tell the truth. You get paid handsomely, as you pointed out, for putting out your negative propaganda, for drip feeding fear into people whose lives you have no knowledge about. People whose lives you really don't know much about, that you betray yourself trying them on. Independence would lead to more poverty. Wow, I'd love to see Joanne on the 41 telling people how it really is, They don't know. And to be honest with you, I don't even think that they know that they don't know. They're career politicians. They've got a job to do. But the writing's on the wall. In the past, all you had to do was to maybe be a research student, get a wee number in the Labour Party, and somewhere further down the line you'd be a candidate, get a safe seat, sorted for the rest of your life. That's not going to happen anymore. Whether it's a yes or no vote, that route is gone. Because one of the reasons I'm really enthusiastic about a yes vote is this. A new generation of people, and I've got to say, primarily women and young folk, have started coming up and asking questions and making points. And that new generation of people are hopefully will constitute the driving force for a new Scotland. They will be the voices, and they will have the ideas which will shape a society which we'll be proud of being part of. And our part, life comes, life goes. Generations come, generations go. We're here right now. Loki hit it right in the head, man. We're here right now. You only get these moments very rarely. And this is a key moment in history where you say, wow, what are you going to do? Are you going to stop out there and go, oh, I'm not sure, I've got a feeling of taking all this fear? My son, he's got a pal. She was out campaigning, he told me this story, she was out campaigning for the yes vote, and she checked the door, and the guy came to the door, and she said, what do you even need to debate for? What is there to discuss? Right. I thought this was really funny. Now, I think it's good. I actually agree. There's a quote from Jim Kelman, the Glasgow writer, who says, what other country do we know that needs to have a debate to determine its own existence? Isn't that brilliant? What other country do we know that needs to have a debate to determine its own existence? Are we a country? Aye. Do you believe in democracy? Aye. You think we should have the government to be elect? Aye. Vote yes then!
Hi, sorry, can I just go back to the question? That was awesome. About the bailout of the banks. Yeah, I don't know much about it, or very good about it, but there's just this idea, I think, that banking crisis was about, we talk about banking reform, is to try and separate investment banking from public banking. Because actually, where all the damage happened was in investment banking. It wasn't public banking, which is us. We're fine. We didn't do anything wrong. It was these investment pricks that fucked it all up. So we need to separate that, certainly. The problem, I think, even with asking what would happen is that so far only the SNP and the Greens have really entered the debate about what a vision for an independent Scotland would be. So we don't really have access to all the information. If you believe the SNP, they'll create a kind of oil fund that would bear the brunt of that cost. The Greens are for a much more progressive tax system, which would also mean that borrowing goes lower. For instance, like a tax revenue, Scotland only spends £1,400 more in tax than everyone else in the rest of the UK per head. Even though our public spending is £1,200 higher, there's still that 200 shortfall, so we actually contribute more than we get back. That's a factor. So that's also why the SNP, I'm not a fan of it by the way, I just know this, are saying that it's actually borrowing doesn't need to be as high as it currently is. I think the main point for this argument or this discussion is that economics is not a science, that it's a political strategy, and actually the political comes before the economic. Economics is a branch of politics. So if you have, and there's this idea that we've not been told that's not true. Economics is scientific. It's rooted in mathematical reason. No, it isn't, because it's rooted in political assumption. And if your assumption is wrong, then your conclusion is worthless. And that's it.
I agree with that, and I think source as well as some of these things, right? Because, take for example, right, there was an international survey happened either at the end of last year or the start of this year, and basically it was all around the world, so a cross-section of all the countries, right, and they asked what is the biggest threat to world peace, and overwhelmingly people said the United States of America, right, our pal, right, and so that was reported in one newspaper in America, and they reported that saying, how can the people in the world think this about us? They're idiots. Right, so that's an example and a clue to the quality of information that we might be getting here. So if you look at the banking system, look at the countries that are characterised by us as rogue states. They don't exist within our financial system. So you start to see a pattern developing between the terms that we throw about in describing other countries and our agendas with those countries, and then our banking system, which seems to have to be preserved above all other things. What you don't read about in your papers is what Iceland done, which is jailed them and rewrote their constitution. You don't read that. So you just, as soon as you start to look at it like that, you start to see on a fundamental level, this is all just held together, this pretense, see this freedom, see this argument against social justice, which means we have to take something from somebody else to give you that welfare. Well, what do you think our freedom's built on? Look behind the curtain of British and American freedom. It's kids working in sweatshops, it's animals being hacked up. It's disgusting, you know, it's war zones on the edges of empire where we don't get to see. But the war journalists who have been reporting there, they all lose their jobs for speaking out. The intellectuals who live in the fringes of society because the West has to tolerate them because they can't get away with killing them. Listen to what they say. No, these BAMs, you know what I mean? BAMs.
That Halifax thing I made, Halifax Bank of Scotland, I know probably when they are something the Iceland thing is, Loki stole a wee bit of the thunder. Iceland refused to bail out the banks, they let the banks fail, and they're now probably one of the richest countries in Europe, you know, they're thriving. They jailed their politicians, they jailed their bankers, and what they done was they get rid of all the politicians and they say, right, we're going to have a people's parliament, and you can only be elected if you've never been part of a political party before. And then they changed them every year, and they made sure that there was plenty of women, and they changed the whole hierarchical system, and it was fantastic. So when Alistair Darling was saying the other night on that debate, which was absolutely chronic, when he says that Iceland was bust, it was like, when he says Ireland was bust, to me a sign of civilised society is how we treat our children with the same morality. Now, anybody knows, I've got friends in Ireland, child poverty rate in Ireland's a quarter of it is here. Their women and children, even though times are hard, they are poorest and disabled, vulnerable, are they getting treated the same way your people are being treated here? So some of the things that are getting bandied about is absolutely, it's offensive as well as ridiculous. So who was your next point, sorry?
I was at canvassing locally the other day, and there's, I mean, you can forget there's a lot of soft yeses and a lot of soft no's still, and some people are swerving and could go either way. And even some of the yeses were just saying they didn't sound very confident, didn't feel very confident. Still, nobody's really explained to them, can we actually afford the pensions, can we afford infrastructure, etc, etc. And the source information thing is very important because we've got over a dozen newspapers in this country, and yet there's only one that supports yes and all the rest are against it. I just wonder, how are we going to get around that, and are we going to be able to win that, make people feel confident, yes we can do it, and yes we'll thrive.
Get Obama, and yes we can. Does anybody want to have a wee go? I think we've covered that, the mindset.
No, but I think we need to, I think as well as making those arguments, I think what would help people make those arguments with confidence is reapprehending the idealism, reapprehending it and infusing it, you know, with more meaning. Because this idea that aspiring for more can just be refuted as like empty words is really, really worrying. You know, like what does that say about the kind of world that we're living in right now? So I think all of these arguments, economic arguments, right, which some people find hard to grasp, I think these arguments take on a new light when people aren't scared to talk in a language of aspiration and idealism, and recognition that that's how societies progress morally, socially.
I do agree with Loki, but I think when you're out canvassing and you somebody that's like a bit elderly and is worried about that and has had a lifetime of being told that, then to go in and try and do that, I think we need to have conversations and that we need to keep canvassing, because we're not going to win the media onslaught. We're not going to. We need to do face-to-face talking. Everybody in this meeting today needs to talk to their relatives. They need to sign up and chat the door. We've got 4 weeks. That's how we're going to do it. On the ground, foot soldiers, every one of us, because we can't rely on the media. We don't have time for that kind of cultural change in language. I think, yes, it should start. It needs to begin now, and it's an ongoing thing right through past the referendum, definitely. But that's what we need to do. We need to talk to people at a bus stop, waiting in a queue. We need to talk about it. And I always think it's a good way. Wear your badge. Tell people how you feel about it. Go in, you know, get right up to the and talk about it.
Can I just say in the meantime about pension, if somebody's asking me about their pension, a worried pensioner, the Department of Work and Health Pensions have already put out a clear statement saying that British pensioners, Scotland, anybody that's contributed or is currently a pensioner, nothing can affect that. But we'll not read that in the paper. But if you really want to do that, we'll go in and have a wee Google at it. And that will not change. We pay the pensions to folk that are retired to Spain or whatever else, and they'll still all look at their pension. So the issue might be about what we might do for pensions in the future. And I think you'd bit there, or this table's bit there, but that's aspirational. It'll be even better in the future. But right now you'll get the same as what you'll get down south. It's a contract. Contracts, and they've already acknowledged that they've got to pay that pension. So your big pensioner, you can really say to them.
Well, can I just add just one thing to that? We've done a lot of camps in different areas, in East End and all sorts, but a lot of people don't have internet access. The houses we went to, and that kind of shocked me. Why we don't really suddenly like, you know, my own little life, my bubble that I'm in.
You barely have that in this community.
Aye, so sometimes you need the person that prints it out, puts it in the door and chats them, and there's got to be that point where we've all got to do something if we want this. It's not going to be given to us. We have to physically do something about it. And I don't want to get to the point on September 19th where I feel that I didn't do enough. And that is our burden, it is our responsibility, all of us, just collectively.
Sorry, just to round that bit up, what we need to remember is that half the people in Glasgow don't have internet access, right? So they're getting, everything about the referendum is on the telly and in the media, so think about that, that's what you're facing. So that conversation, sometimes we chat people's doors, it's the only time anybody's ever sought their opinion on anything. And I was out there with Lorna, just for Cranhill, first time she ever came canvassing, and with 3 different houses people invited us in. They want us to sit and tell them and talk to them about, because people want to know, and I told a story as well. When I first started doing fairs and stuff in East End and chatting those 2 years ago, about half the people would scoff with the kind of mindset we're talking about. You're too wee, or too poor, or too stupid. Say we chat 30 doors there, with one person saying it. So there has been a kind of change regardless, but we must remember a lot of times when we're talking to people, their only sources of information are coming from our media, and it's severely biased. We know that, we're not going in here. And so they're actually eager for having that kind of general conversation. So this is
It's just a continuation of the chap's point up at the back about people's need for a bit more information in terms of can we afford it, all that kind of stuff. And I just wanted to ask your organisation about what your view is of the sort of Commonweal paper and policies, what you believe that would bring to the table in terms of answers.
Commonweal, has everyone in this room heard about it?
No.
Heard what it is? It's an old Scots term that means wealth for everyone, wealth shared around as well. It's a completely radical new concept about how we would remodel society, how we would change our working week, our economic structure, our social policy, how we would also start our new economy too. And a lot of people say, oh, we need jobs, where are we going to get these jobs from? And the Commonweal talks about, there's about 160,000 people homeless in Scotland. How do we start an economy? Why don't we start building houses? Why don't we start making bricks, quarrying and getting electricians and joiners in? And when you read it, it's in plain language that everyone can read. And it does just make sense as well, but these are the kind of things that don't get any media spotlight on them at all. These are the things we say, like, hardly anybody in this room has heard about it. If you go tonight, go and Google it's on the internet, you can get the book, it's about £5, and it's no hard reading at all, it's about 90 pages, but that is something that the Radical Independence campaign really does endorse. We think it's the way things have to be, and even the SNP and all other parties do endorse it. They might not shout about it a lot through fear of being shunned by other politicians, but it's a new radical step forward, and I think it's the best chance we've got about getting something new.
So I can start it. What's so great about the Commonwealth policies is it breaks it all up. So we've got like what it thinks about politics, what it thinks about childcare, certain policies, or defence, economics, strategy, energy, and all of the policies in it and all its ideas have been tried and worked somewhere else. So whether it's somewhere mental like Cuba, where they have the lowest crime rate in the world, you know, that kind of thing. So it's been tried out in lots of different places and it's all worked. And they're just saying what's radical about it is let's try it here. So it's really an anti-neoliberal capitalism thing, even though we don't really live in a capitalist society like that. But it's all tried, and it's been tried and worked in different places, and it's like we could try it here. And it's not one of these things where magic button, one answer sorts it all out. It's saying that we have to do these things in conjunction with each other. And that's how it works, that's how we fix social housing, because, you know, we create jobs. We can't just create jobs that don't pay a living wage, there has to be a living wage, and then people can invest in on it goes. It's all these things in conjunction with each other, which makes it.
And it points out something as well, it's like if you get everybody working and getting a fair wage, there's more people paying into the tax system, there's more people contributing to the economy. So it sounds really simple, but it works as well. And one of the things it talks about, and it's kind of like it's happening in here just now, talks about stripping away all these centralised powers, you know. It doesn't say we don't have a six chambers, but it talks about, you know, why we've got all these councillors and all these salaries in place. We should have people's assemblies and community councils. And what I'm liking about this meeting is, right, nobody's just directing the questions here, people are shouting back, going forward, everybody is interacting together. And see, for so long, we haven't done that. We don't talk to our neighbours, we don't talk to each other, everything's all over computers. But what if something was different where we've got a wee bit of money to spend in the community, so everybody just comes here and talks about the best way forward, something that benefits everyone, instead of being just aligned to hold to the city chamber. So talks about that, it's already starting to happen.
I've always talked to Victoria. I used to get a couple of bob for cleaning the clothes.
I know, I was just going to update you. The common view is something that we're endorsing as a kind of blueprint for our vision. Yes, in giving the white paper, we've got the common view, and Victoria's hit it on the head. It's a kind of community thing where we're all working together. Right on, Darren.
No, it's not about that. It's actually it's about the coup. The kind of I'm on the Facebook body. I'm in our it's bad for the other one. But I came up paranoia with it. I've noticed that over the last few days, they're all thinking it's going to be fixed because some of these properties are going to be 25% postal vote. And looking at it, there's been a few postal vote fixes. And I just want to know, how is this going to see the coup? Are they going to be different members of the parties there? At the coup?
I don't know how it's organised.
Our campaign group could be a registered participant. We've gone with there. Yes, Scotland's gone with there, and I think there's but see the thing you're talking about there, right? It's kind of a well-known thing, right? We don't know. I mean, and what I would advise is which Keira said, come out and join in and chat with us and have a conversation with people on the doorstep. We can see too many people talking to each other on the kind of Facebook pages. They talk about the same thing. You know, your energies are probably better directed at that.
I've never seen so many clever, educated people talking about politics when you're talking about thousands and thousands of them.
I think that's one of the, just back to the point I made about the young lassie who said, why are we even having a debate? It's just that it's good. The good thing is that we have had a debate, because that debate has actually brought up, like I said earlier, a layer and layer of electorally conscious people. And the input of things like the common view has been very interesting, because it's shown people a new way to look at the whole thing. They look at economics and political structures, the way we actually govern ourselves, the way we actually run our society, all that's to the good. Come what may, it's had a repoliticisation of a lot of people, and it's been the first for a whole new layer of people. It's just the first time we've got involved. Now this is folk who've sat back and just looked disparagingly, thinking there's nothing I can do. You saw them all, every party, the whole lot, the Jim Devines and all that, the ugly face of the Labour Party, the expense scandals, all these people. Enough was never enough, any mayor, you know, kid on the laws and that house and that. Just greed, absolute greed, and they thought they could just get away with it. That wasn't that long ago, but it's getting spoken about now. But it led to a lot of people just thinking, you know what, they're all the same, and you can't blame folk for thinking that. But in an independent Scotland, I would hope that that would not be the case, and I don't think it would be the case. You wouldn't be able to say they're all the same, because it would be a whole new layer. It would be young blood coming through. I had a great conversation. See, after I told a pal of mine, Kate, what was happening, what happened to me in Iceland. And she says, you know, and this was a while back, this is about 7 years ago or something. And Kate says to me, I'm all for independence, Gary. I really think it's not just a good idea. I think it's crucial now. She says, my only problem with it is this. See, if we got it, I'd need to get involved. And I think that's brilliant. She was a bit apprehensive, but she was speaking for the heart and saying, see, when we get independence, I'm going to come off Facebook and actually just go and start constructing a better society. Really? And I thought that meant an awful lot to me. Because there are so many people, there's such untapped talent and resources in our communities, in our society as a whole, which isn't there because it's all geared towards the same old rigid political structures. And they never want to leave. I mean, they never want to pack it in, you know. And then, obviously it can be a lot better.
Before I think about the count, I think about the voter registration as well, and I just want to check if anybody's registered to go in here, the registration forms up the back. The one thing that we have together in Project Fear, or Aaron banking on, is the fact that we've been driving this voter registration, we've been going to all the places where people have never voted, they're so disengaged with politics, they're filled with apathy, and they don't really subscribe to politics. We've been going, we've been chatting with board, we've been registering people, right? And there's actually been a massive increase in people that have registered that have never voted before, and this is what's sending them into a spin. People are starting to get letters for their council, you know, saying, oh, if you don't write back in so many days, we'll strip you off the voters roll. You know, they're starting to use really dirty-handed tactics too. So if you aren't registered to vote, do it. We can send it away, we can pay for the postage, we can do it online. And so if you are registered to vote, and we can't remember the last time you voted, check and make sure you're still registered, because this is what's going to win it. All the people that have never voted before, the fat cats don't want to vote because they've got a job.
I would encourage your family and friends as well, find out everybody's registered to vote. This gentleman.
So to get back to the young lady's question earlier on about the bank, I'd just like to comment about the assumption behind that question there, how would an independent Scotland have fared under the banking crisis? In that case, very much like this, the world's set in aspect attitude that says, oh, if we hadn't invaded Iraq, Saddam Hussein would still be there, as if nothing ever changed. The fact is, an independent Scotland, when we were cheated out of over 35 years ago, would have been radically different. And the political structures, the banking structures, as you say, it's political economics is the term that I use, So therefore, it's a nonsense question. It has to be answered, of course. It has to be answered by what we will do, after we get independence this time. But I think when we're too quick to worry about how we're going to answer that question, instead of challenging the assumptions and many other questions that the Better Together campaign have structured to put together to force us into a blind alley, what are you going to do, without the pound or whatever like that. We use the fucking groat. It's as simple as that, we don't have the pound. Don't just accept the question the way it's termed, get questioning the assumptions behind their questions.
I think it's important about how we load questions, and then just, the language is really important in this debate, but I went to, when I was at the Better Together meeting, I was talking about what we contribute as Britain in humanitarian aid, and it was like 900 million. But the way we framed the question was that Scotland would only contribute, say it was 300 million, but it would still get added to the English now. So it would still be 900 million that would be going to the country. It would just be coming from different places. Does that make sense? But it was the way he said it. It was like somehow it was a drop in 6 billion of humanitarian aid to Syrian children. But it's not, of course. It's just instead of coming from Westminster, some of it's coming from Westminster and some of it's coming from us. So it's just how
we might double it though.
Eh?
We might double it in an independent Scotland. This whole assumption that you're tied to the figures. London Light, we don't want London Light, we want a whole new way of doing it.
Is anybody that's not spoken yet get any questions?
I've got 2 points. The first one was, see when you're talking about pensions earlier, I'm thinking, see last week when I listened to that debate on TV, the thing that disgusted me is that we don't have a pension pot right now in the UK. We're currently relying on taxpayers that are putting into the economy just now. Why bother having a government actuary? What's he doing? He's not got a job. All they're doing is just taking our money and handing it out. There should be a pension pot. And I would hope in an independent Scotland that that's something that we would build in. And I don't see any reason why we wouldn't be. But that's my first point. My second point, I want to ask a question, and it's with regard to, you alluded to 1979 there and how we voted for devolution. And we got the vote we needed, but they moved the goalposts and then started, bringing out people who were dead or whatever as a no vote. And they then returned that as we didn't get our devolution at that time. What do you think the likelihood is that the Edinburgh Agreement is going to keep us safe and allow them, or not allow them to move the goalposts this time?
You think the British government's going to keep its word, essentially?
Sorry, I think in this day, and it's only coverage and media coverage, 24 hours a day media news, everybody knows that agreement is in place and that the sovereign will of the Scottish people is meant to be adhered to. That what we vote, that's what we get. Can you imagine the ruckus that would be caused if Westminster actually turned around and went, well, we're actually going to change this secret now, and then that means that you're actually not going to get it? They would be scorned across, it would just be outrage across the world on our behalf, because they go, you can't do that. So I guess the one thing that's going for us is the fact that yes, there is so much media coverage about the independence debate, that if they do move any goalposts, it's only going to be them that's going to lose out.
I think you're right, and I think it's always like, even when it comes to the economic stuff, I only just point to what already exists when it comes to pensions and how these things have already been dealt with. All this stuff is in the character of the UK establishment, all of these things, dirty tactics, whatever, and I think you're right, like in this kind of information age where people choose to be ignorant, then I don't think we get away with it, and I think if they tried anything, then it would provoke something up here that would take things to another level,
It's a very high level.
Aye.
Particularly with the higher.
It's not a question as such, it's kind of a question, but I had the privilege of being at a no meeting today with Gordon Brown, Margaret Curran.
Is that this morning?
Aye. 11 o'clock this morning, because obviously...
How did you get an invite to that?
Well, it isn't an invite, they stupidly kind of left it open.
We were told it was an invite only, just so you know, it's
you would be, wouldn't you?
St George's. And how did it go?
Well, I went, I'm yes, and I was probably always going to be yes, if I'm honest. But at the same time, I try to be open-minded. Football teams know that shouldn't come into it, but sometimes it does, and people think you're only that way because of that. Right? And we're not going to get away from that. So I try to stay open-minded. I didn't get involved in it. It's only been the past few weeks. Went to my first meeting last week in the town, like kind of yes meeting. It was a yes meeting, it was meant to be a debate, but nobody turned up.
This means hammered that one, I bet you.
The two have been brilliant, but the other side never turned up last week, so it turned into a yes meeting and it wasn't supposed to. But I left that thinking, I need to do what I can to tell people the story. Not to convince them to vote yes, but to tell them the facts and make sure they go and watch.
Give people the opportunity to make an informed choice.
But that's how I left that meeting. I left like, let's do this. Can you imagine part of history? Do you mean William Wallace, blah blah blah, everything else?
What happened at today's meeting as well?
So I went to today's meeting. I went to today's meeting, and for the first time ever, I'm not interested in politics. They're all as bad as each other. That was my kind of coming into it, and I told them that the day. I don't think I really appreciated it, but anyway, I told them. So I went. I done a wee bit of research last night. I wrote out some questions. So they came in and we had tea and coffee, and Gordon Brown arrived half an hour late, went round and shook every single person's hand, and then done a wee spiel, which was rubbish. He spoke about the Rugby World Cup for 10 minutes, his 20-minute speak, and that led into slagging Salmond versus Darren. The whole thing was about the SNP and Alex Salmond. They had pound coins, Alex Salmond's face on the table, which I thought was embarrassing, and a few other people told them that as well. It was all suits and ties. Now, I'm not saying people in Easterhouse don't wear suits and ties. I'm from Easterhouse. I've worn a suit and tie myself when I at work. But on a Monday morning at 11 o'clock, the only way we wear it is if we're at work, and this place was full.
People criticising them then,
Aye, so the only people that asked questions was people like me. Like a few yes voters turned up, because when I found out about it, obviously plastered it on my Facebook to make people aware of it. So we went in and asked the questions. So I asked them, first about bedroom tax, I went on about that, and asked him if he voted, because obviously he didn't vote. He couldn't remember. That was his word. I swear to God, Gordon Brown said to me on a mic, I don't remember. And I said, well, I remember you didn't. So the most important decision ever in an area like Easterhouse, he didn't even bother to vote, but I have to trust everything he says. Talking about pensions, that's why it made me think about it, is because although it's been kind of in the media that we've been promised pensions are fine, like you said, Gordon Brown's point in the day, because he was turning up to a church at 11 o'clock this morning, he thought it was going to be all pensioners. His point of the day was all about pensions and how it's no safe. Yeah, Oscar Tactics 7. I left, I went kind of with an open mind thinking, I'll probably leave thinking, maybe a bit of doubt, maybe a bit of scare maybe, but it was just everyone, all the questions that get asked, every question was answered by a pension. Even though one last asked about the NHS, she's scared of the privatisation, and he answered that, talking about pensions.
Forget about the NHS, be scared about your pension.
Just everything, and basically that we put in 8%, but we currently take out 9%. We tried to go on about the SNP. There was a guy there that you might know, Eddie Toner.
I know Eddie well.
So Eddie Toner was there, and he asked a question about the pensions, and it's just rubbish. It was just absolute rubbish that I put him back. But what I was getting, it was SNP. He said, this is about the SNP. So I said to him, this isn't about the SNP. I'm only voting for the SNP. I'm voting for power. He went, it's about the SNP. They'll be the parliament that the new independent Scotland. And I was like, this isn't about that. No, they won't be. Well, without me being, I don't know nothing about it really, but I know that we're going to have a vote. And he said, no, SNP will be the party. So I did had to remind him, I can't believe you just conceded defeat in the first election. And it's not even been yet. Anyway, the embarrassing thing is, as a former Prime Minister, and me who knows nothing about politics, I don't pretend to know. I've watched a few videos. I could trip him up on every single point he made today.
We're talking about citizen activism and you're...
I left that thinking, like, I was already voting yes, but I'm going to tell even more people, because that's embarrassing. If that's what we're up against, it's embarrassing. He turned up to fear a group of pensioners, that's what he did, to put fear into them.
We're running out of time. I'd like to hear from somebody who's no spoke yet, so good luck.
I'm very vocal about my support for independence on like Facebook, like social media and stuff like that. But after that debate, that's when I realised it's imperative that we get out in the community and we're up and we're chanting those. And it was, I spoke to the guy for Celts for Independence. I don't know if he's here. I spoke to him. Is that you there? I spoke to you yesterday. I stayed in Twin Heath, but I took a wee bus journey up here today because I want to be out in the community. I want to be chanting those. But how far is this campaign going to stretch? Is it only to the likes of like Cranhill? Whereabouts is it going to go?
We're all over Scotland. The Radical Independence campaign is, I'll let you know any secret, yes campaign are getting in touch with your guys and asking how they can help us. We're not going to criticise too much. I think we know there's issues there, but we are the guys who are thrusting. And Victoria said something really important tonight, and this guy here epitomises it. It's us. It's not, we can't rely on the suits and the people, the old guys and stuff. It's the young people and the women and people who are being really empowered to say, hold on, you've got a new chance to change your society for the better, and it would be crazy not to take it. Somebody made the point to me the other week, the humiliating if we were the first country ever to vote against governing ourselves. And I hadn't really thought about it, it kind of hurt home. Gary said a few things that's hurt home with Loki and Keira. I've had people quite a few, not being that many meetings, I'm more being in chat with it. I tend not to go to these things, but principally because the speakers are quite stale, if I'm telling the truth, but that's a lot of yes meetings. Absolutely. All the speakers are saying the same thing, talking about money and stuff. And my conviction about supporting independence is through social justice. About how we can change society for the better rather than things carrying on with just a change of flag, you know. But you're right, it's guys like yourself, I think I did speak to you there, you've come away your roost because I've finally gone, I'm going to do something about it.
Use your email address, email me, you can come to campus with us.
Everyone in here, like we've got a campaign diary, we've got stalls going on all the way across Glasgow, we're canvassing all the time, we're doing public meetings all the time, we need help all the time. So don't leave without giving us your details.
Definitely. So you want to
a young guy here.
Sorry, I've never seen you.
Sorry, yeah, I just want to say I'm from France originally, and I've been here for 4 years. And I've been here for 4 years for university, and at first I was sort of low, and it's only I've become more involved in it once I was sure I'd stay here after university, because I think I didn't really have a say in it otherwise. And the thing that struck me about it was, from a sort of relatively outside perspective, was a lot of the issues that come up from the Better Together campaign are issues that are not really issues. And for example, I mean, the pensions have been talked about a lot, and saying that, for example, you're in an independent country, you won't get any pensions. I know from in France, there's a lot of English people that, you know, retire there or just live there. I mean, since when was a pension an issue? Right? It's not an average issue. And another thing as well that I think is quite important in the idea of an independent Scotland is the constitution. So I know France is a bit like the Americas, you know, the US, they love their constitution. And something that I learned when I studied in Scotland was that actually England does not have a constitution. Constitution is what is decided in the parliament by the government that's in place at the moment. And that's why things can change very quickly and can go downhill very quickly because there's no sort of check. And I think that's the one thing that's very important would be to have a constitution, is things that are sort of cleared, and if you want to change it, you have to go through the whole process.
Absolutely. There's people working on that just now, because that is quite a big thing. I mean, even in a worse scenario, we've had Scotland Act 1998, which defines the powers of the Scottish Parliament. So even in the most basic terms, we've got a constitution already in Scotland, it's how we act here.
Yeah, like I didn't watch the debate last week because I thought it was two old guys and it was talking about, I would say, the smokescreen issues, you know, the pound and the pensions. It's taking our eyes off the ball. It's all just to stop us from thinking about the problems in society, you know, the poor, the working poor. Scotland is a prime place for a lot of renewable energy, a big economy for new jobs and stuff right now. And right through the Parliament in Westminster, they're stopping that, because they're taking away incentives for people to have more renewable and solar energies on their land. So they're clamping that down straight away too, but they're taking their eyes off the ball from doing this because they keep talking about the pound and the pensions. So while we are focusing on that, we're worried that there's something that will be okay. And come back to the pensions too, you get the poorest pensions, like one of the poorest pensions in Europe too, so we need to think, we don't even want the pensions, we want the more pensions that we can grow on and expand on. But for me, those issues wouldn't even come into the pound and the pensions. I don't care what's in my hand, as long as it gets me what I've got before, if not more. But a constitution is what Scotland really needs. We need a constitution to protect every member of society, to protect people's dignity and say, if you're in a wheelchair, you're not going to get sent to an office to pick up an empty box. If you have got a child and you want to go and work, you won't have to pay through your bloody nose for childcare. We need a constitution that represents the demographic of society, not the white middle-aged men in Westminster, and I think right now is a good starting point as well. But what we need to also keep an eye on too is that the parties in place that are saying we need a constitution, everyone has to be around the table, not just the guys in politics at the moment.
We've only got a few minutes left, can we give us a minute each to finish?
I'll just offer my minute if anybody else has got anything to say. I know somebody may be sitting there who's wanting to talk and is just a wee bit too nervous. So maybe this is the moment where fate shines on you and you get to say it. If not, I've got multiple minutes of shine.
Keira, I know that's it.
That's your minute. I just want to say about the Constitution, I personally don't want any politicians making a Constitution. I want it completely and utterly citizens. That's it.
Quick minute, you know, this whole talk about radicalism, and the word radical has got the same roots as radishes, and it's roots. That's what it's about. Roots. That's what radical is about. We've gone to the roots, I think. And here we are. This is going to the roots here. Hearing people's questions and points of view here in Cranhill tonight. We're going to the roots here, and we're talking about stuff that matters. Yeah, they face all this crap, and the fear campaign is sophisticated, it's polished, and it's had an effect. I mean, I was out canvassing with Vicky, and we get guys just giving, I'm a no man, as if it's something to be proud of. Why? Personal. There is no oil. Norway's got all the oil. God, how do you get through here, you know? Is there some way I can get in, you know? And you're like, wow, some people have just become kind of minded, but that's a minority. That's a minority. And Scotland is terrific. Which we need to talk about later. Vote yes, thanks very much.
Details get involved in the radical independence campaign. You know, we're not partisan, we don't support any political parties outright. It's been great to come here. Like, it's just good to talk to people and people not being ashamed to just stand up and say what's on their mind. So cheers.
Actually, this is probably the best meeting I think I've been in, because the participation of everybody has been brilliant. It's been really flowed and it's great, and I hope you've acknowledged this. So thanks everybody for coming.